Okay, shalom, y'all. Great to be with you. I'm very, very envious and very jealous of Susan Pellegrini for going to Texas, and I wish I could be with you there, and be with Lori, and be with Megan, and be with who else is there? Neil Johnson is in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Annette is Long Island. Keila, I don't know exactly where you are, but wherever Robert Bush. I imagine we'll have to get together somehow and have some people come over at some centrally located place. Even though in Texas there's no such thing as a centrally located place, but miss you all. Working very hard on my ninth book. My eighth book is ready, about the updated political Bible Bloc Party. And this new one is about Turkey and the Armageddon, but it's not an easy book to write. So I'm working very hard on that. And Rachel, of course, is monitoring the TV as always. I think part of her blood pressure going up so high has been all this crazy stuff going on here. Gets her very upset. And finally, what happens is eventually we just, switch channels, and she puts on some kind of a love movie or something, which will calm her, some romantic thing, which has nothing to do with politics. And I just go back up to my room, my study, and I work on the book. So I don't know if and when I'm traveling to the States, but meanwhile, I take advantage of the time to write the book and the ninth book. And this is a very, very important book for pastors. So Aaron already has a plan to offer the book on ebook, a format to the pastors. So we're very excited about that. We have to get the message out. A lot of people just don't understand what it's all about. So that's regarding the book, regarding our personal situation. Rachel is feeling a lot better. She had a very high blood pressure, like 182 every day, every hour. And it's like down now to 153 when it's really low, which is still too high. But the doctors in Tel Aviv at the private clinic worked on her very hard to give her a whole list of things, what not to eat and what yes to eat. And with me, I'm just trying to, bring my sugar down, which is also not easy. But I'm fine. I mean, I continue working, and signs are good. And waiting to see, am I going to travel or not? And the situation with Iran is such, I think, that they've already given Wyckoff and President Trump negative answers 3 or 4 times, and still they keep negotiating. And so I think when the time is right, there will be a military offensive, and Israel and the U.S. will have to do this together. And as I said before, I'm here working on my eighth book is finished and ready to go to printing. My ninth book, I'm in the middle of it now. And Yaakov is supposed to be joining me in Texas between the 10th and the 21st of June. We just don't know. Prices for tickets are going through the roof again, like $5,000 to fly from Israel to New York. And so if and when the war with Iran does break out, I think it'll be over in a short time. So I'm kind of praying for it to happen sooner rather than later, so that by the time I get to the date that I'm supposed to rendezvous with Yaakov in Dallas, that all these shebangs will be over. And we all have to remember, Israel now is working on the final, I would say the final last leg of the war in Gaza. And now the military is talking about 2 weeks and the war is over. I think the Israeli military is really, really expecting massive surrender of the Palestinians, and that this war will just be over. Lebanon, we have a problem with Hezbollah rearming and regrouping. This cannot be tolerated. So there's going to be something happening in Lebanon. Syria, you have the Ahmed al-Shara, who is also known as Julani, and he wants, quote unquote, to normalize situation with Israel, and that meaning Israel should go back to the borders before the war, which means Israel has no say in defending the Christians and the Shiites and the Druze, which is something we have promised to protect these minorities. So I really don't know yet what's going to happen with Syria. Erdogan looks like he's getting old and senile, kind of like Biden. The Houthis have not sent any missiles in the last few days. I think the Houthis are hurting from all the attacks by the U.S. and British allies, as well as the Israeli Air Force. So anyway, listen, we have had over the last year and 8 months, we've had miracles, one miracle after another miracle, where we were attacked by all these different countries, all these different terrorist groups, and Israel has been very successful in thwarting all of these attacks. And so I personally, I'm very upbeat about it. But then again, I'm 76. I don't serve in the Israeli army. I'm not in the battlefield. I already lost my home once, 40 years ago, when I was in the artillery. And it was the same thing. I was constantly being called up, and I lost my business. I lost everything. And I suppose it's fair to say that my wife, Rachel, was a real heroine, that she didn't divorce me or kill me. Because today what's happening, a lot of couples are breaking up over financial difficulties, because there are men who are serving 300, 400 days in the military. And my son Aaron, for example, has served over 500 days in the military. He's gotten the Excellence Award from the general, from Central Command. They want him to join up the army as an officer. They want to make him an officer. Aaron is very, very good in the work that he's doing with the Arabic. And I think Yaakov is suffering a little bit. I won't say from post-stress trauma or whatever, but I think he does want to make a getaway with me. And just once you're in Texas, you are in another world. And we have plenty of work to do in Texas, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. I will try to go a week or two before so I can do my meetings in Florida. From Florida up to Virginia, I have meetings. So I have a lot to do. And again, like I said before, I'm working very hard, as fast as I can work on my 9th book, Lepanto 2, and Turkey in the Armageddon. And by the way, I'm collecting a lot of brand new information on Turkish involvement in Pakistan and India and Bangladesh. United States kind of, under Biden, was meddling in Bangladeshi politics, and they overthrew Sharifa Hussein, who was a liberal Muslim woman who was good to everyone. And the United States said, we want St. Martin Island. If we don't get St. Martin Island, you're out. And she said, no, that's Bangladesh. They threw her out. So Bangladesh has been taken over by this ISIS. They're being backed by Pakistan and by Turkey. So I don't know if you get any of this in your media in the States. I see Helen Leninas here. I don't know if you get this in your information sources in the UK. Situation is not good in many instances. By the way, just a little factor I picked up last week, and that is that 17% of Russia today is Islamic. The biggest mosque in Europe is in Moscow, and there are millions of Muslims there. So I'm watching every country like a hawk. And in the Israeli news, don't be offended, Helen, but they said in the Israeli news today, they said that the UK is the first Islamic country with nuclear weapons. That's not true, by the way. Pakistan is the first Islamic country with nuclear weapons. My friend in Bangladesh told me that the Indian Air Force attacked western Pakistan, and that dozens of people now are sick with radiation poisoning because the Indian Air Force probably struck a warehouse with Pakistani nuclear weapons. So I don't know. I mean, I get this stuff from my contact in Bangladesh, who is Hindi, and so I'm just saying a lot of crazy stuff is happening all over the place. And but here in Israel, relatively speaking, we're doing well. The Houthis are attacking slightly less than in the past. I think, like I said before, that the Brits and the Americans and the Israelis have done a good job hitting the Houthi terrorists. So we're watching. Again, the key here, Gaza, I think, is over. Gaza in 2 weeks is over. I think the real problem now is Iran. So we're watching Iran very closely. I think President Trump has been giving the Iranians every possibility to climb down off that high tree. And the Iranians are just too proud and arrogant. And so I think that there's really no choice but to militarily attack Iran. So we're watching that. Other than that, there's really not too much new. I picked up another interesting email that Islamic terrorists in massive numbers have been fleeing from the Middle East and going to South America. So this is a problem because there are colonies that we know about in the border areas between Argentina, Paraguay, and Brazil. There's another border area between Colombia and Venezuela, Islamic territory. And the Islamists are very active in Venezuela. They're very active in Colombia now, in Nicaragua. And so there's a very big threat to the American underbelly of the United States. I don't know. I mean, it's not the Biden administration anymore. Maybe it's some smarter people.
Thank you.
Huh? Did somebody say something? Okay. So anyway, I think that's about it. I mean, I have plenty of answers for plenty of questions if anyone has questions.
What about Brazil, Abby? Because Lula's not good.
Well, this is before Lula. I have information that the population of Brazil is 11% Muslim.
Oh my goodness.
So you're talking there also about 15, 20 million Muslims, and they are settled in areas, usually border areas, where they're able to do contraband, smuggling, infiltrations. The great explosions that took place in Buenos Aires in 1992 and 1994 were organized by Shiite Muslims on the border between Brazil, Paraguay, and Argentina. The Triangle of the East, it's called, the Triangle of Terror. So I've been following all this. This is in my first book in 1997. So Lula da Silva, I think, is corruption for the sake of corruption, but he knows how to work with the Muslims. And unfortunately, our guy,
Bolsonaro
had a senior moment. Bolsonaro's fantastic.
Yes.
And, it's a very sad thing that a corrupt man like Lula da Silva, who served time in jail,
That's right.
appointed all these corrupt judges, and they're the ones who brought down Lula da Silva. It's kind of like what the Democrats did to Trump in the second election. In 2000,
Exactly.
2000, what year was it? 2020?
16.
2016, yeah. So things are a bit tipsy-turvy. I don't know. I was very, very saddened by Moody's lowering the credit rating for the U.S. by 1 point. Never happened. I mean, it hasn't happened in like 100 years. So the United States really has to continue working, I would say, to bring down the debt. Bring down. It's like $37 trillion. And so it's true. He went to the Arabs, got $2 trillion, but that's not going to save anything. The United States has to work hard. And there are questions as to whether the tariff game is going to work. And it seems like it's working in a minor way. But I all the time see reports that there are open plans. Comey, who used to be in the Department of Justice, I think, sent out an email with numbers, and the numbers basically were saying kill Trump. So he said, "Oh, he didn't realize it was that serious." No, no, there are plans to kill Trump. There are plans to kill Netanyahu by all these deep state bad guys. So all these things have to be watched very carefully. And actually, here I am in Israel, happy to be home, happy to be able to work freely, and hopefully, with my son's help, get my ninth book onto the e-book system, so that pastors can get the book in the United States. The United States, Canada, Britain, I don't even know if my books will be banned, because I was told by my Canadian friends that they went to the customs, and the customs told them that the book, my books were to be banned. They were, they were too radical. And, I had a few trips to Canada since Helen, Canada is part of the Commonwealth. And they were saying to me, what do you have in your van? I said, well, books. I teach the Bible. And what I had done was I put all the books which mentioned Islam inside my van. And what I had at the door when the inspectors came was books on the Bible Block Party and Christian Revival for Israel Survival, nothing that mentioned Islam. But I realized that I was too close to being discovered. And so I haven't been going to Canada recently. Last time in Canada was 10 years ago, I think. And I went there because my friends on the American side of the border smuggled me into Canada. Because once I went to Canada, they said, "Oh, you're an American preacher, you cannot come here," because the American government blocked a New Zealand family that was trying to come to the United States to preach, and their RV was turned back. There were like 17 people in the RV, and New Zealanders, the Allies. So America's crazy, the Canadians are crazy, everyone's crazy.
It's true. I think it's appalling. Canada and the UK and France calling for Israel to end the war.
It's not just end the war. It's end the war, or else we will impose sanctions on Israel. And you see, the problem here is that Israel is described as a genocidal country.
I know.
But we're defending ourselves from a genocidal enemy that nobody talks about that. So we're waiting to see. Meanwhile, I'm doing my work here and trying to bring my sugar down, and Rachel's trying to bring her sugar and her high blood pressure down. And listen, we're getting older. So as long as we live, all we can do is praise God. Any other questions?
What are your thoughts about the U.S. and humanitarian aid in Gaza, the latest developments on that?
Well, I don't know if it was Netanyahu who said it. Somebody said it, or a lot of people said it in the news media, that if we want the war to continue and be finished, we have to let in the humanitarian aid, because when they see bloated bellies of little babies, countries like France and England and Canada will sanction us, and the whole world will jump on Israel. So, okay, let them have a few trucks, give them some more trucks with their humanitarian aid. But what we're trying to do is, next week, we have an American or a Western consortium of humanitarian agencies that will be distributing the food from centralized locations, which were built specifically the last few weeks by the Israelis. And so there will not be any threat of Hamas shooting up Israeli guards. So, we will be surrounding the humanitarian aid distribution. And listen, we all know that all the people in Gaza are terrorists. We know all of them are terrorists. There are no holy Hamas or Gaza people. Even in the Nazi-occupied countries in Europe, there were people in Poland, in Russia, Ukraine, Holland, France. There were some good people that protected the Jewish people. Actually, the Catholic Church did a pretty good job. I mean, the Pope was, a politician, so he was with the Nazis. But the nuns and the priests were protecting Jewish kids. You don't find anyone. You don't find anyone in Gaza who is in favor of protecting the Jews. They all want to kill the Jews. And you know what? When I was a young kid in Hebrew school or going to Saturday services or we're having Saturday Torah study, and it says you kill everyone who is descended from Amalek, because these people are not curable. Amalek is totally dedicated. But as a young Jewish kid in America, oh, that's a terrible thing to say, to kill children. No, you got to kill everybody. But of course, the Israeli politicians can't say that. So I think our only concern at this time is liquidating the military capabilities of Hamas, and hopefully with the help of President Trump and some other good countries, accept the Gaza citizens. For example, there's a word here that Libya will take 1 million Gaza people. There's still 1 million left, or 900,000. I don't know what happened. By the way, I got an email today, which I sent to Lori, I think also to Susan. And basically, the email says that Indonesia, they were comparing the military of Australia with the military of Indonesia. And I looked at it because I said, Indonesia is a Muslim country. We should be looking to see what the military strength is. Because after all, if a war breaks out with China, which could happen, don't forget, Indonesia slaughtered 500,000 Chinese in 1960. And nobody said anything. The Americans said it was communist. No, Chinese communists. No, it wasn't Chinese. The Chinese in Indonesia were like Jewish people. They were family-oriented business owners. And they controlled 90% of the economy in Indonesia. And so 500,000 were liquidated, like Holocaust. And so now what we have in Indonesia, there's an army of 300,000 soldiers, which sounds very nice on paper. But they said that the 300,000 mostly are people who are unemployed, and the army gave them jobs so that they wouldn't be unemployed. But the Indonesian army is lacking weapons and lacking training, and the Australian military, which is a lot smaller, is a very well-organized fighting force that could, destroy the Indonesian army in 24 hours. So I was kind of shocked, and I put in a post there with the article where I said that there's good news and bad news. The good news is that if Gaza sends 1 million Gazans to Indonesia, Indonesia will have more fighting people who really know how to fight. On the other hand, they might orchestrate a coup d'etat against the government in Indonesia and establish a Palestinian government in Indonesia. So when I said, oh, they're not a threat to the Indonesians, these Palestinian terrorists are a real threat to the Indonesians, because they know how to fight, and they don't mind dying. We know, we have the experience with them. How do you like that? That I got today in the internet. Lori, did you get that email about Indonesia?
I did, thanks.
Okay, so I'm telling you, I get all kinds of very, very strange curiosity type emails, but they are all little pieces of a big jigsaw puzzle. I'm sure the Chinese are also interested when they see something like that, because the Chinese could overrun Indonesia. At least I could go to Indonesia and have some good Chinese food. Neil Johnson, and who's here, is that Trump bypassed Netanyahu, Israel for Gulf states, including Qatar, your opinion. Yes, obviously it's something that happened. President Trump is not president of Israel, he's president of the United States. And to make America great again, the trillions of dollars, he got $2 trillion as far as we know. Can you imagine Israel giving America $2 trillion? So he went there and immediately came back to the States, and President Trump said that they're going to send, transfer 1 million Palestinians to Libya. Libya also is a strange country. It's very empty. It's divided in half. And you have the original Libya to the right. When you look at the map, it's more Arabic. And you look to the left, you see Tripolitania, Cyrenaica, and that's more North African than Arab. So that's a country being torn apart from within, which is very typically Arabic. So it'll be interesting to see if and when the Palestinians actually get there, what will happen with Libya at that time. But America is unfreezing a lot of Libyan money for this purpose. Money that the Americans are holding as a result of Muammar Gaddafi, crazy stuff.
Wow.
Hi, Abby.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
My friend from Jersey.
Hello there.
Jersey, UK.
Yeah, Abby, the Egypt Independent is reporting that the Iranian Minister for Tourism, if you can imagine such a thing, has visited them. And he, representing Tehran, says Tehran aims to attract 1 million Iranian tourists to Egypt over the next 5 years, while efforts are underway to restore direct flights between Cairo and Tehran. Apparently, President al-Sisi and his Iranian counterpart had a meeting during something called the D8 Organization for Economic Cooperation. So I was reading this, and then I happened upon an article from the European Union which says they are now putting in the budget to send 4 billion to Egypt. Is this a way of having money flowing through Egypt to Iran from other places if they should face sanctions from the US, do you think?
May I ask you a question, dear?
Yeah.
You were saying 1 million Egyptians would go to Iran as tourists?
No, yeah. The Egyptian newspaper is saying this.
Okay, now I have never thought of that before. I didn't hear about it until you
Neither
mentioned
have I.
it. I'm trying to put the pieces together. You have in Iran, okay, now Iran is not a homogeneous place. Iran has many ethnic groups. And so, for example, in the southwest, on the border with Iraq and along the coast of the Persian Gulf, or Arabian Gulf, whatever you want to call it, you have a very big Arabic-speaking population. Now, they are Shiites, but they're Arabs. They hate the Persians. They hate the Iranians. They want to break away. So it may be that the Iranian government, I'm just guessing now, I have no information.
Yeah, it's just
that
weird.
The Iranian government would probably want to settle a lot of these Egyptians who are all Sunnis, but Arabs, in the area of Khuzestan, of that Arabic-speaking oil-producing area in southwest Iran. Then you have another area to the southeast of Iran called Baluchistan. And actually, you do have a Baluchistan in Iran, which is Sunni. And you have another Baluchistan across the border in Pakistan, which is Sunni. And it might be that settling Egyptian Sunnis might be a better way of controlling the Sunni areas with the help of Egyptian population. That's my gesticulation. I cannot imagine really anything else. But I will say, I do think that the conflict with Iran, military conflict between Israel and Iran, or the U.S. and Israel and Iran, is very close. I don't, from what I understand here, Israel does not want to break up Iran into a Persian hub state and its, surrounding provinces. Israelis wish to maintain Iran as a unified country with many different ethnic groups, including the Azeris and Kurds and others. So I really don't know what I mean, these are backroom drawing of the people who control the world. Egypt has an overabundance of population. So if Egypt can get rid of 1 million Egyptians and get money, Egyptians would be more than happy for that. I want to tell you something. I've said this many, many times on these Zooms. And by the way, Helen Lenin knows how much I love Christine Dark.
Yes.
I once had a fight with her, but it was a beautiful fight. It was a fight of love in the name of God. And she was asking me, what do you think about, Avi, what do you think about me taking a group of ladies to Egypt? After all, it's Isaiah 19. And I said to her, yeah, but what about Ezekiel 29? And she said to me, Avi, don't start with me.
Yes.
So that's how I fight with Christine. She gives me a quote, I give her a quote, and we end up hugging. So it's nice, I love to fight with Christine Dark. But Ezekiel 29 talks about a war in which all of the Nile River Valley gets flooded.
Yeah.
All the crocodiles, all the fish are up on the desert side. People have to flee for their lives up into the high territories. And then Egypt will be uninhabitable. 100 million Egyptians will have to leave. So this is something, it's a prophecy that never happened, but it's there in Ezekiel 29. And theoretically, if everybody says, oh, the Egyptians, they have their air force on the border with Israel. Avi, what do you say about that? I say Ezekiel 29. I make it very short. And but that would be a crazy, crazy scenario, because then what happens is you have 100 million Egyptians starving and thirsting in the desert above the Nile River Valley, which is now totally contaminated. And all the countries of the world are going to have to take in Egyptian population, whether it be mostly Sunni or some Coptic people. And if you ask me, the United States will take in 20, 30, 40 million Egyptians if this is happening. Which means really America becomes an Islamic country. Unless the Christians say no. But it's the humanitarian thing to do. The United Nations will pass a rule that the Egyptian population has to be absorbed in Canada, U.S., Mexico, Latin America. So for the Egyptians to send 1 million Sunni Egyptians to Iran and to get, how much did you say, $4 billion?
$4 billion from the EU. Not necessarily they're not saying it's for that purpose. It's just coincidental that these two things are happening almost simultaneously. I do watch the Egyptian news because my husband and I used to go to Egypt a lot. We had our honeymoon there. And he liked to do the diving. We used to dive in the Tiran Straits and all different places. So it's interesting to us what happens there. But
by the way, I have to tell you, in 1983, Israel and Egypt had a peace agreement already 4 years, and there were all kinds of reports about Israeli tourists going to Egypt.
Yeah.
And I said to my wife, I said, I have to go to Egypt, and I have to see the pyramids. I have to go to see the Sphinx. And my wife said, no, you're not going. My dad was in jail 2 years there, and they tortured him. And the Jews went to hell. The Egyptians are, they smile, but they're up to no good. And I said to my wife, okay, you know what? You stay home. I'll go by myself to Egypt to see all these things. And by the way, I have to warn you, I have a love for Egyptian women. My wife is Egyptian. And so she was on the bus with me and with our two kids. We had a wonderful time in Egypt. And I mean, I wish I could go back, but things have really deteriorated in Egypt.
Yeah.
Egypt has become really a fanatically Muslim country. And anyone like me who looks like a real gringo is taking his life in his hands. So you know where I really would like to go? I'd really like to go to Syria. It's always been a dream. Syria and Lebanon.
Beautiful.
I would say probably the country which would be nearest to visiting would be Lebanon. There are big plans for Lebanon. And just imagine, the president of Lebanon, Aoun, has said to the Israelis, we can't do it without Israel. Israel has to come in and finish cleaning up the Hezbollah. But when you do that, the French, the Americans, the Israelis will all help to rebuild Lebanon. I'm just going nuts to go to Lebanon. I once had a dream. I'm sorry to tell you silly things, but I had a dream, and it has not yet been fulfilled. My dream was that I went up to the Lebanese border. You've been to Rosh Hanikra, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Rosh Hanikra is the cave. They have these grottos and caves right on the water there in the Mediterranean, and very popular tourism place. So I was there a few times, and you actually have the railroad tracks, which used to be the Istanbul Midnight Express, which used to go down to Cairo, and it would go through that tunnel from Lebanon into Palestine of that time. It was Turkish Palestine, British Palestine. And I had a dream that I went through that tunnel and that I went 2 stops into Lebanon. And so that's a dream I had. I never did it, but I've been on the Lebanese border many times. So you'll excuse me, my wife's not picking up. Ken, I need a Zoom. Bye, Jacob. My son always calls at this time on Tuesdays. Bless his heart. Okay, so I don't know. You know, I think that Trump, with his Abraham Accords, I mean, even the Syrians are talking about Abraham Accords, but that's on the condition that Israel completely withdraw from Syria, which we can never do, because the Druze will be slaughtered, the Christians will be slaughtered, the Shiites will be slaughtered. But Lebanon, there's no reason why Lebanon shouldn't be, again, the Paris of the Middle East. Lebanon is a beautiful country, wonderful country. You have these crazy Hezbollah, but the Christians, the Druze, the Sunnis, you know, we don't have any problem with these people. So it'll be interesting. But all of this will have to happen after Gaza, the Gaza campaign is completed. So, and this could be in 2-3 weeks. We don't know yet exactly. Also, the war with Iran. How will this start? How will it end? But I do believe in our lifetimes that we will see tourism going to Lebanon. So I'm excited. I think it's wonderful. Listen, who would have ever dreamt that we would have peace and tourism with Jordan, peace and tourism with Egypt. We have a tremendous tourism with Morocco. Morocco is an extremely friendly country with us. And you know, the Moroccans, they had military maneuvers a few weeks ago, and the Israeli military participated in the maneuvers. And it was broadcast on the Moroccan TV showing the Israeli flag. So, so much tourism going to Morocco. So it's a beautiful thing. I mean, unfortunately, the tourism with Egypt is very low. Tourism with Turkey, which used to be so tremendous, is very low because of the insanity of their leadership of Erdogan. So we're watching everything. By the way, one thing about Iran, I have to tell you, I was there when I was 20 years old. This was in 1969, and I stayed in Tehran, not a five-star hotel, but a nice hotel. And I spent almost all my time walking around Tehran. And I want you to know, I loved Iran. I loved the Iranian people. It was a great time. My hotel was half full with Israeli officers and half full with Iranian officers who were hosting the Israeli officers. But because I studied Russian literature in college, Lermontov, a hero for our times, he was constantly talking about the Elbrus Mountains. Elbrus Mountains are the mountains of north of Tehran. And the Russians were there. So it was an interesting borderline experience for me. Any more questions? Maybe you guys have your Turkish coffee yet.
I mean, are there numbers yet for Aliyah for the past year? Is Aliyah increasing?
Supposedly, yes, but I'm very disappointed because I had heard during the course of last year that we were expecting 100,000 immigrants. And then they said that it was 27,000 who made Aliyah. It was not a bad number, but I think a lot of people are waiting for the war to be over. Also, I have to admit, I don't like to admit shortcomings, but there are quite a few Israelis who have emigrated, who have left Israel.
More than have come?
I don't know. I don't know the numbers. I had been expecting during the independence celebrations, we had all these fires, so everybody was home watching TV. They didn't speak about this. They said 27,000 came, but nobody said how many left.
Can I ask sorry.
Yeah.
Well, the little baby of the mum that was killed, is he still surviving, or how is he?
They're not talking about it, but if he had died, they would have said it.
Right.
They delivered the baby by cesarean.
Shocking.
But I think the mom, poor thing, couldn't take I think she was brain dead by the time she got to the hospital, because her husband tried to stop the bleeding, and he said it was clear she was dead. And so by the time they got to the hospital, they just delivered the baby.
It's awful.
Hey, listen, this is the story of our lives here in Israel.
I know.
It happens all the time.
I know.
But in spite of all that, our population surpassed 10 million. And I'm still saying we're going to get a tremendous increase in immigration.
I think lots of Brits are coming home.
Lots of Brits, lots of French are coming home. When I took my wife to Ichilov Hospital in Tel Aviv last week, we went into a shop. It's a cheese store. There's this chain, Basher. It's all over Israel now. Every mall has a Basher. And I went in, and there was a very nice gentleman, very well-mannered, French. And then I heard the whole group in the cafe, in the Basher cafe, they're all talking French. And I started, I'm very nosy. I started saying, when did you come to Israel? Oh, 6 months ago. Oh, 5 months ago. A lot of these people completely new. And the French, probably the owners are French, so they hired all these beautiful ladies and handsome men, very, very nice people. Sandwiches were fantastic. Then when my wife finished her treatment with the doctor, like 4 hours with the doctor, she was very hungry. I said, I've got the perfect answer. Come with me right now. We went down to Basher, and they have these baguettes with seeds on them, like sesame and the black sesame and I don't know what. and the cheese was very piquant, very spicy. We just gobbled down the sandwiches, and then we drove back to Jerusalem, back to Kedar. But I have to take my wife in a week back to the same hospital in Tel Aviv, and you can be sure we're going to get more sandwiches. Very sweet French people.
Fantastic.
So is it mostly people coming from Europe?
At this stage, the Europeans feel the heat much more than American Jews. I think American Jews suffer from denial. And you have to remember that even though there are like 30 million Muslims in the US, according to my calculation, the population of the United States grew from 250 million to 350 million just in the last few years. I think most of the people, from what I saw, most of the people were Hispanic. And the Hispanic people are wonderful. I love it. You know, I speak Spanish to them whenever I'm in Texas, and I love them. But in Europe, I think the Europeans are not so lucky as the Americans are to have an immigration which is Christian. So you have these Muslims coming in. My wife went to France, I think, like 30 years ago with her friend, Mona, who, rest in peace, lived in Israel. And when they were in France, they were speaking Arabic all the time. And every time they found Arabs, they thought they were Arabs. And the Arabs said, "Oh, we're taking over France. And it's not French anymore. It's now going to be Arabistan. It's going to be Arab." And so my wife and her friend were very shocked by the Arab arrogance that they're taking over Europe. And I don't know, I think England is probably in its worst situation since World War II as far as a threat to the country. And, you know, I don't have to tell you, Helen, as an American, for me, going to the UK is like going home, you know, Robin Hood riding through the Glen. I mean, you know, all Americans have a love for England. And I think it's just a great pity, such a wonderful country like the UK being taken over by these barbarians.
Well, most people don't see it. That's the horrendous thing, that they just think, oh, it's not going to happen. And I had a friend, can I briefly tell you a story? I have a friend who works at a private school in London, and there was this Muslim lady that she was befriended, and she was helping her. Last week, she said to her, you know, when the imam gives the word for jihad, I'll have to kill you because you're a Christian. And she was absolutely shocked to the core. This is a friend, a really good friend that she'd helped. It's unbelievable.
You know, I have to tell you, today on the radio, there was somebody who was being interviewed. He said, "Oh, these poor Gaza children, we should take them to the hospital and feed them and take care of them. They've got sicknesses and we'll take care of them." And so the interviewer said, "You know what the first thing they do? They'll kill you."
That's true.
When they grow up,
Exactly.
they'll get the call for jihad. And it's like, do you remember Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde?
Yes. Yes.
I mean, these people know how to look nice and be friendly, but when the time comes for a knife in the back,
that's true.
And it's the devil.
Well, my friend was totally, I told her that, but she didn't believe me. I told her about you and what you said, but she didn't believe me. And now she believes me.
Yeah.
So Avi, it brings up an interesting point. So, you know, because of the anti-Semitism in Europe, Jews are going home to Israel.
Correct.
What about the Zionists in Europe, in America for that matter, or the whole world, who are not Jews? What about the people who support Israel and are not Jewish? You know,
that's a very, very good question. And I know that if there are any rabbis or Orthodox Jews listening to what I'm about to say, I'm already on a very big blacklist. But I personally believe that all these rules regarding Christians coming to Israel, or Messianic, or Jewish people who marry Christians or non-Jews, and there are people here who are saying we have to ban we have to change the law of the return. From World War II, the deal was if you had one Jewish grandparent, the Nazis could send you to the gas chambers. So the law was if you're good enough for the gas chambers, you're good enough to come to live in Israel, even if you're not Jewish. And that's how it was until now. Now there's a member of Knesset, religious, and he's saying, no, we have to change it, narrow it down from one grandparent to one parent. Now, what's the problem with that? The problem with that is we need 10, 20, 30 million immigrants. I'm not talking about Avi Lipkin. I mean, it's good for the Bible Block Party, but we need immigrants. And 6 million Jews in America are married 84% to non-Jews, Christians. So we're talking about nuclear Judeo-Christian families of 10 million. But if this law passes, more than half will be disqualified and will not be allowed, or they might say, well, the Jewish husband or wife can come in, but not the non-Jewish spouse, which is crazy. Because husbands and wives cannot leave their husbands and wives and their children because they're, 3/4 Christian or whatever. And I'll tell you something, what I'm going to say is very cruel. We need soldiers. We are very, very much in a difficult situation. There is open talk that after this campaign in Gaza, nobody's going to go to the army anymore. People are exhausted. Families got divorced. Families lost their homes. Families lost their businesses. And forgive me for saying it, these crazy Orthodox people, ultra-Orthodox, 70,000 are studying Torah all day. They don't go to the army. Another piece of information came out yesterday that 100,000 leftist atheists in Tel Aviv got letters from psychiatrists that they were crazy, so they wouldn't have to go into the army. So you've got 300,000 soldiers in the reserves that are doing all the work on the battlefield. And I know that if couples come from the U.S., Britain, France, Canada, other countries, and you have Christian blood, they'll be the best soldiers because they're joining the Jewish people. They want to join the Jewish people. Do they want to give up Jesus Christ? I don't think so. So that we need them. And the Messiah is not coming or returning only for the Jews. Just as I told you, Lori, many times, the Messiah is not returning only for the Southern Baptists. One of my favorite jokes in the Christian churches is, what's the difference between Southern Baptists and Northern Baptists? And I say, Northern Baptists go to hell. That's a popular joke in Texas. But I see Israel's borders growing. I see Israel's population growing. All of this is in preparation for the Messiah.
So
now,
that's when they take sorry.
Huh?
That's when they take over Syria as well.
From the Nile to the Euphrates.
Amen.
And, everybody's saying, no, we don't want Nile to the Euphrates. We want a small country so our kids can come home, every other day or on Shabbat. No, it's not going to be like that. Israel is going to become like America.
A superpower.
The Nile to the Euphrates, you're going to have to fly. And we're going to have Christians and we're going to have Jews. And let me tell you, the Messiah, whoever he is going to be clapping his hands. He's going to be so happy. And you know what? I'm going to make a proposition to the Knesset. Let's call it the United States of Israel.
Wow.
Wait a second. Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Israel, Saudi, Egypt, all these countries will be basically taken. Do you know how many people live in Saudi Arabia with all that oil? 19 million. What's 19 million and all that oil? And all these emirates, they're fictions. So, of course, if somebody from the Israeli Mossad or from the KGB or the American intelligence, if they hear me say these things, this obviously crazy. Okay, I'm crazy. The Lord is crazy like a fox. And if these things are written in the Bible, they're going to happen. Are they going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But we are definitely in the times.
I agree.
I didn't shock you, Laurie, did I?
No, not at all. But I was thinking more of like in Europe and other places, the people who don't have even a Jewish family member, but are supportive of Israel and are Zionists.
So I would say there should be a committee.
So, I mean, do you think those people, like, you think we should move to Israel?
I think you should, but the point is, who am I? I'm nothing. What we would have to do is we would have to see the proper entry of Jews and Christian spouses. I'm sure we could have a committee that would judge every Christian, hopefully favorably, what is the contribution that they can make to Israel. And if I were head of the committee, you would definitely have a green light to move to Israel. We'd have our Sunday morning breakfast in my house.
Oh.
We'd even take in some people from the UK and from Jersey.
Take me.
Bye, Neil. Great to see you. You know, I have to tell you one more thing. I don't know, we're kind of running out of time, but when I was a young kid, I don't know, maybe there's something wrong with me. I think there is something wrong with me. And I felt, I was born in 1949. I missed World War I. I missed World War II. I missed the Korean War. I missed the Israeli Independence War, the 56 Sinai Campaign, the 67 War. And I felt that I had missed my place in history. It's kind of like all of you who saw the movie Patton, General Patton. That big battle coming up, and he was begging Eisenhower, let me be there. It's my role in history. I've got to be in the battle. And that's how I felt when I was a young kid. When I came to Israel, and people were asking me, why did you come to Israel? And this Zionism, I said, I think I have a role to play. I think I have to be here for the battle. And so, you know, I served in the Yom Kippur War. I served in the First Lebanon War. They kicked me out of the army when I was 52. They said, Grandpa, go home. I said, I love Israeli women soldiers. They said, Grandpa, get out of here. And so I didn't serve anymore in the army. Today, I'm too old to be even in the civil guard. So I have a gun. So I'm here with Rachel protecting her. Maybe she's protecting me. I don't know. But we're okay, you know. But I think that my job now is to write books. And if possible, to travel and to travel and to travel and to write more books. And but the way things are going, you know, there's so many things blocking me from completing my newest book. But I think it'll happen. And I love this group. I want you to know, I wait the whole week for this group.
Can I ask a question? Another question. What do you think of Miller from Argentina?
What's my thinking about Argentina?
Yeah, is it Milio or I don't know.
Milei.
Yeah. He looks a really good guy.
I love the guy, and I wrote to Trump. Here you have another MAGA guy, but instead of make America great again, it's make Argentina great again.
Absolutely.
And you know, I have to tell you, Argentina is a very strange country. And I'm going to say things which I'm sure will offend certain people. But my uncle once said to me, do you know why Argentina is so messed up? Because we didn't get the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants from England to colonize us. We got the Spanish, the conquistadores, the Catholics. And they destroy, they're like Arabs. They destroy everywhere they go. But if the British had taken over all of Argentina, we would be a world power today like the United States. And Argentina has exactly the same wealth like the United States, has oil and gas and gold and silver, metal, has everything. Rich farmland. And what happened the last 80 years was you had this very corrupt Peronist system. The Peronists are like really national socialists, like Nazis, but without killing the Jews. But everything is corrupt. And they said to me, "Roban de dia, crece de noche." They steal during the day, and at night, while they're sleeping, the politicians are sleeping, it grows back. And then the next morning, they wake up and they steal some more. But that cannot continue if the country is corrupt. So when Javier Milei came, he's a little crazy. Hey, listen, Trump is a little crazy, but Trump brought home $2 trillion to the U.S.
Exactly.
And Javier Milei is putting Argentina back on its feet again after 80 years.
Exactly.
I collect stamps, I collect coins. I know exactly the history of the Argentine economy. And he loves Israel.
Mm.
I don't think he went so far. He's Catholic, so his sister is very Catholic. I don't think he went so far as to convert to Judaism, but that doesn't matter. The important thing is he a good president? Is Javier Milei good for Argentina? And he's an economist. And he doesn't take nonsense. He's doing his job as an economist. And Trump has been doing a good job. America was on the precipice with Biden and Kamala. So I don't know. I'm an optimist. I think America will turn out okay. I'm just very concerned about assassination attempts on Trump and Netanyahu and Javier Milei. These people are good, godly people in the sense that, they do the right thing for their people.
Yeah.
Are they crazy? We're all crazy. I'm crazy. I won't say you're crazy. I want you to invite me to your home one day when I come back to England. But
you're always welcome, Avi.
Thank you. I don't know the problems. I'm afraid I get off at the airport there in Heathrow and they arrest me.
We don't live in Cheshire anymore.
We have what?
We don't live in Cheshire anymore.
I know you moved. Where are you now?
Yeah. We're in Down, just beside, just where Nigel Farage lives. So you can come and meet him.
That would be great. I'd love to do that. I'd love to meet Geert Wilders also in Holland.
Yes.
So, I don't know. All I know at this stage, I'm here, I'm writing books, I'm getting the message out in my own very modest way.
Avi, can I share a little story with you about that happened yesterday?
What happened?
Okay, so speaking of Alia, so I went to Lowe's. I was picking up a mini fridge for my new office, and I was, curbside. Guy came out and he was helping me. We were talking. I just had surgery on my neck, so I said, I can't lift anything right now. I said, is it heavy? So when I pointed to my neck, I guess I inadvertently pointed to my star. And so after pointing to my star, he helped me get my things in the car. And then he actually turned to me and he goes, are you Jewish? And I go, well, I'm part of the Messianic community. And he goes, I just came out Jewish just the other day. And I think the way that he told me that, he came out, just really truly shows you that, he was, I would assume he was probably around my age or a little younger, but people are kind of scared to come out as Jewish or to really, tell people that they're Jewish. And I think he really felt empowered yesterday when he was and I asked him, I said, have you been to Israel? And he said, no, but I would love to move to Jerusalem. And I said, I've been 3 times. And he goes, do you feel safe when you're there? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I feel safer in Israel than I do, here. And it was just really incredible how we just kind of had that little connection. But I thought it was just it really stood out to me the way he said it. He's like, I came out as Jewish last week or something to his coworkers, because there's not a big Jewish community in San Marcos. So I don't know. I just wanted to share that. I thought it was pretty interesting. It was really cool.
It is interesting, a little bit scary, but I do have to tell you that, and it's something, it has to be God's hand. No, I'm going into another story now. Nationalism in Europe was always anti-Jewish. nationalism was always connected to the church of that country. So, for example, if you were in England, you'd be Anglican nationalist, English nationalist. If you were in Germany in the Lutheran Church, you'd be, backed by the Lutheran Church. Austria Catholic Church, the Russian Orthodox Church. The Jews never really felt comfortable being nationalist in any countries. There are a few exceptions, but so the Jews, because there was so much anti-Semitism in Europe 100 years ago, all of this is, of course, before the Holocaust. So Jews became communists. Jews became socialists because they said if all of this hatred is because of God and nationalism, then abolish God. That's what communists said and say. I have a sister who's like that. She says, I hate God, I hate Judaism, I hate Israel. She probably hates me too. It's my sister. But the Democrats in America, about 66% are Democrats. And the vast majority of these people are atheists, and they support the Democrats who have a horrible, horrible program for America. And I know the program. And I'm a Sovietologist, so I understand Soviet socialism and communism and all these things. I come to America. The Jews completely boycott me from day one. That's 35 years ago. Very few Jewish synagogues would invite me. Who invited me? Y'all's invited me. And I've been in 1,000 churches. And I think I know the Christian spirit very well, which is a Jewish spirit, but devoid of communism and socialism. You want to be a nationalist American. You don't have to be Christian, but it helps. So 33% of the Jews in America are Republican and nationalists. But the problem is, and here's the crazy thing, if anything, God forbid, happens to President Trump, there is going to be a civil war in America, and the Republicans are going to take out all the gunpowder and all the rifles, and the Jews, especially the Jewish Democrats, are going to be annihilated because they're behind all this Bolshevik behavior in America, and it's Bolshevik. So there's a reason that Jewish people are afraid to let anyone know who they really are. I've been trying, and I think I was partially succeeding. I've been finding more and more Jews becoming Republicans and patriots, but still there's a hardcore, again, which includes my sister. My sister is like me, same blood, same parents, same everything, and we're diametrically opposed ideologically. And I said to my sister, don't worry, the day will come that you're going to come to live in my house because the anti-Semites, the Muslims, the blacks, the anti-Semites, blacks who are, how shall I say, Black Lives Matter. No, because you've got wonderful blacks who are Christian. I hate to say it. I don't want to say I'm waiting for a disaster, but I'm expecting a disaster in America. And I would say to you, Lori, my dear, that even if you're not Jewish, you should experiment, come to Israel, see what areas you like. If you can scrape together a few dollars, buy some small apartment. And, Caleb Myers, who's the Messianic lawyer, specializes, it's very expensive, but he charges a lot of money. But Christians can own land here. Christians can own apartments. And about the status, future status of such Christians, I believe the day is going to come. We're going to get a tremendous tsunami of immigration from the West. And a lot of these people are going to be Christian. And the Bible Bloc Party is exactly that. It's a party, it's an alliance party of Jews, Christians, and maybe the Druze also, who are Bible people, mentioned very, very nicely in the Torah. We're going to be seeing massive homecoming from all over the world. There are rabbis and certain Orthodox Jews that say, we don't want the Reformed Jews here. We don't want the conservative Jews here. They're all contaminated with the foreign ideas. The Reformations of foreign ideas. I grew up a conservative Jew. Because of the conservative synagogue, I moved to Israel, even though they were all left wing. But if you have any eyes to see, ears to hear, and brains, you have to become right wing. And that's what I did. But there are people here who don't want to see Christians, don't want to see Jews from America, don't want to see anyone of suspicious thinking, suspicious blood. And we could have in this country eventually I wouldn't say civil war, but we will have a Catholic Inquisition of the ultra-Orthodox rabbis. So I don't know if all of you understand what I'm saying, but the Bible Bloc Party is a must. And I think that the day will come, we will be in the Knesset. If God still wants me alive, I'll be in the Knesset.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to be so down at the end of the talk, but
No, I just want to make sure. Do you encourage those interactions, or because I know when you said like it was scary, I just want to make sure I'm interpreting that correctly. Like I thought it was a really positive interaction, but I want to make sure that I'm interpreting what you're saying correctly.
No. I would say absolutely. Even somebody like this, if he's hiding his Judaism, he's probably reform or conservative or non-affiliated. And I think 50% of the Jews in America are non-affiliated.
I see what you're saying. Yes, sir.
And so he sees you with a Magen David or a Jewish symbol, and he says, "Oh, I just found my long lost sister."
Exactly.
And he's not saying, "Are you kosher? Are you a Sabbath keeper? Are you this? Are you that?" If and when you see him again, ask him: Is he reform? Is he conservative? Is he non-affiliated?
I will. Awesome. Thank you, Avi. I appreciate you.
And then if and when I'm able to come to the States, I'll be glad to meet him.
I would love for you to come here. Yeah. And I will, we can meet that. We can make that happen, sir.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Avi.
Wonderful. I see Megan live. You're always hiding behind the camera there somewhere.
You say Megan? I've been talking to you this whole time.
You see me, but you're always on your phone or whatever it is.
Oh,
so
I know. I'm in my office right now. It's good to see you.
Good to see you. Any other questions?
Is that a wrap?
Okay, my dear. Until next time.